87, so she's the same age as Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. So, do you have any stories about Elizabeth, or can you tell us about what she's doing now?
Yeah, Cammie Kotler played Elizabeth, and she looks almost the same. Her hair is very long and red, and it's still almost the same, even longer than Elizabeth's. And she is a principal and she also creates charter schools in Los Angeles. And she's a great teacher. And now she runs the school, and she's a mom. She has 2 kids, a daughter and a son, and they both go to her charter school. And it's an environmental charter school. So she is doing lots of good work, which I'm sure she also learned from growing up on the show. all that planting that we did with Will Gear in the front. And Will actually planted that garden in the front of the house because he was a botanist. So he was actually out there when we weren't working, like weeding and planting things and the corn. Grandpa actually planted those in real life.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was there?
One more.
Yes.
Okay. When the producers and everybody got together, decided to run the show, how long do you think the shelf life would be on it, or how long would you last?
Weeks. They really thought the show would be canceled. Actually, the company even kind of banked on it. Nobody thought the show would go because there were no family shows on television then. I mean, years later, Little House, and there were, and everybody loves them. But it really was groundbreaking at the time. And the show was going to be canceled. It didn't catch on. If it was on today, it would probably have been gone. They only let shows on a couple of weeks now just to see if they immediately catch on. And Lee Rich ran an ad saying, this is a nice show with family values, save the show. And people started to watch it, and it really caught on. And then it became bigger than anybody ever dreamed and imagined. People ask me now, do you think the show could, if it started now, could it last? And I'm not sure. Although I had lunch with Richard Thomas, John Boy, in New York recently, and he said to me, so have you been watching the show? I said, no, I haven't seen one in a really, really long time. And he has been doing what you did. He has been watching the show with his son. And he looked at me and he said, you really should watch it. It's actually a really great show. Yeah.
I love the music.
The music was great. It was great. I did a radio show this morning, and they played the theme song to the show. And it really touched my heart. I almost got tears in my eyes because it brings me back to so many memories and such a wonderful, it was great music.
So here's another experience I had. In the mid-90s, I was living in New York, and I saw this advertisement for the reading of love letters.
Oh.
And they had,
it was Michael and...
Michael and John Waite.
Oh, and Ralph. Okay,
Ralph
yeah.
Waite. And it was just absolutely phenomenal to see those two together.
Yeah.
And see them read love letters. It brought me to tears, and I have a picture that I have hanging in my office with both of them. And they signed the flyer about it.
Oh, I'll tell them. Yeah, they are amazing. One of the wonderful things about being on the show as well is that there were such amazing actors, and they were all from the theater. So we learned this incredible work ethic and these great skills about being in an ensemble and really being a family and the importance of that community. And I've done shows I talk about in the book. I've done a lot of episodic stints, and I remember the first time I went, we all used to have lunch with each other all the time. People say, were you really like a family? Yes, we were really like a family. Do you still see each other? Yes, all the time. And I remember the first time I did a show, I thought, okay, it's lunchtime. I wonder where everybody's going to have lunch. And all of the actors just scattered. I thought, wait, no, they're not having lunch together? How odd. That's so strange. And everybody was running off to their trailers or jumping in their cars and leaving. And nobody had lunch together. I was just surprised. Naive, I think, but I learned quickly. Yeah. Oh, back and then front. Yeah.
I have a question about the temporal and cultural context of the show. I haven't seen it myself. I don't watch television now, and I have very little experience with past television shows. But The show was based in the Depression era, and I'm just curious if that was sort of a reactionary stance the producers took to the 1960s, or it just seems odd that you put a Depression era show on, because I didn't think that. You said the show started in 1971.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that was a particularly difficult economic time for the United States. I thought that was the late 70s where that sort of started. So
Well,
I'm just curious if
yeah.
you can comment on that.
The show was based in the Depression because Earl Hamner's real life family, he is the real John Boy. So he actually based it on the time where his family lived in a small town. And after the stock market crashed and the country was in this disaster, he actually talks about how they were not in the same financial straits that a lot of people in the Great Depression were, because they lived on a farm. And they planted their own food, and they had their own animals, and they had a cow. So they actually were in much better shape than a lot of people in America. And we have a show called The Dust Bowl Cousins, when we have these cousins from the Dust Bowl come in. So it wasn't intentional, but I think what happened is that it paralleled this interesting time in America, and it kind of galvanized people to, take stock and see what was important about it, and it made people realize that family values were important, and that sometimes, the greatest lessons can come from being part of a community or sticking together with your family and fighting and working through tough times. So it wasn't intentional, but it is interesting historically. Oh, wait, then you think, sorry. I'm going Robert's rules.
You started off by mentioning that you wanted to present a book where a child actor, or I guess actress, turned out successful. Why?
I think that child actors get a bad rap. I think that, and honestly, in trying to get the book done, we hit a lot of flack and static. Literally one publisher said, well, Mary did something positive with her life. No one cares and wants to know about anything positive. They want to know about the drugs. They want to know about the failure. They want to see the train wreck. And the book intentionally is not about it. It is my own train wreck, but as I say in the book, I don't throw anybody else under the bus. I throw myself under the bus, but not anybody else. And so I think that a lot of times we only want to see the negative, and somehow with reality programming, we're always, we want to vote someone off the island. We want to see their downfall. We want to see the negative. And somehow with child performers, that is... I don't know, that it seems to be. It's like they want to know that it was terrible for us. And while I did have terrible and tough times, what was important for me in writing the book was to talk about my lessons, not Judy's lessons or Cammie's lessons or Eric's lessons, but what my lessons were and how the show was so important to me. And it really did inform who I've become as an adult. So, that answers that one. Yes. And then
I see the pictures of Ted Kennedy. What's
Yeah.
the relationship?
For the last 15 years, I've been a citizen activist and lobbyist in Washington, D.C. I was diagnosed with lupus 15 years ago. And so I decided to do something that my dad always said, which was make good lemonade. And I decided that while I wanted to be a famous movie star, somehow my lesson was that I had this disease. And so with a lot of thought and an appearance on ER playing a woman who had lupus, and they didn't know, the story's in there, I decided that it might be important to try and share those experiences. And dealing with a chronic illness can be very difficult, and lupus is a very difficult disease to diagnose. So while I never intended to be a poster child for a disease,